What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Aki Culture Club. I'm your co-founder, Damian.
And I'm Nick.
Nick, you ready to kick off this week's episode?
What is this, 38?
38, man.
Let this 38th club meeting commence.
Let's do this thing. All right, Nick. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Dude. I was real excited to talk about some of these shows that we watched.
This was a really good week.
Yes,
really good week.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to start with it, but Tokyo Revengers
I have a lot to say about Tokyo Revengers.
Yeah, man.
It was serious, like chef's kiss for me.
Me too. I had chills during that episode.
Dude, me too. Like I was actually like grasping with this during the entirety of the episode. I was like, I haven't actually felt like I was actually like at a fight or something like this in probably like 10 years. No, more than 10 years, probably like 13 or 14 years. I'm like, wow, this actually feels like there's like some there's some weight behind this.
Yeah, there's tension and like consequences. Like people could die, people that we care about. Like you don't want to see them get hurt.
Yeah, this isn't like a really froofy show where it's like everyone's going to be happy in the end. It's like I really think you're right. Someone could die right now.
Yeah. Are we in Tokyo Revengers? Are we just
let's just roll right into it,
bro. Mikey, how is he not dead? Because I was like, wait, did the pass alter and he was dead after that hit to the face? I was like, just like his brother died.
Yeah, just
a metal
like
piece.
I was absolutely rolling when that was happening. I was like, holy crap, Mikey, like Kazutoro is insane. Like he is insane, but it's just like with everyone around them just watching and like all the dudes from all the other like the gang leaders from the other delinquent groups and stuff, and they're just like watching Mikey just get hit over the head with a metal bar repeatedly.
And the way that Draken like screamed when Mikey first got hit was like curdling,
man.
I have goosebumps now thinking about it.
So me too. It is insane how good this show's gotten, but like how just the voice actors, just like the situations that they're in, like oh my, and then not to mention like we also have Takamichi on the other side too. Like he had a big episode as well.
Yeah, he like rallied the troops.
Yeah, like
he finally punched someone. I feel like this is the first time he's actually hit. Well, he sucker punched what's his name, the ugly guy who's
Misaki.
like he sucker punched him.
Yeah,
but this is like the first time he punched somebody in a fight.
Yeah, like he actually went out to like fight somebody, and I was like, oh my god, he actually threw a punch. Like this is like a turning point for him almost in his personality. It's like, wow, you are actually doing the thing that you need to do.
Yeah, and he rallied the troops when he was like running through the crowd, like windmill fisting, and he actually got some praise from the other people of Toman, which he hasn't really gotten before.
They don't respect him at all.
Yeah.
And I wrote that down. I was like, man, if the biggest, like the wimpiest kid in your entire gang is like fired up and ready to go, that means like that's like the lowest person on the totem pole. It means that you got to be fired up too.
Exactly.
Like you can't have this kid like out praise you,
Chain is as strong as its weakest link.
And he's
the weakest link.
So that means everyone's that's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Damn, that's a good title for the episode. Seriously though, so many other things were also happening here that I just want to talk about with Draken as well. So like Draken, most more specifically, like the Draken and Hanma scenario, like we saw Mikey fight Hanma, right? And they were kind of like evenly matched at that one during that one fight when Draken got stabbed.
Yeah.
Seeing Draken fight Hanma shows you how strong Draken actually is.
Dude, they were like him alone can turn the tide of this battle just because he doesn't have to worry about everyone else. Like he's like the apex of Toman.
Yeah, he really is. And he's way stronger than everybody else.
Yeah.
In Toman. I mean, Mikey, by the end of the episode, I don't know what Mikey's going to do in the next episode. So I may be wrong, but it seems like Draken might be the strongest one in Toman.
I mean, it's got to be close, but like you saw Mikey pick up that dude who was hanging on his leg and still kicked Kazutoro in the face.
Yeah, and
with the
knocked him out
dude on
cold
on
with
his
the dude
leg.
on his leg.
That
Like
was-
after getting repeatedly pummeled with a metal pole.
yeah, and this whole time he's just like, I think he was just trying to confirm that, like, is this really happening? Like, do you really want to hurt me, to
Yes.
Kazutora? Because it was his
Yep.
friend,
Hmm.
and he asked him like, "Am I your enemy?" And once Kazutora confirmed that, it was like, all right, take the ankle weights off. It's time to really fight.
Yeah, that was a real Rock Lee moment right there. Ankle weights came off and it was time to fight.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
It
dude.
was. I.
He's just so badass.
It's just so. It was so badass. Like I had goosebumps the entire episode.
I really did. And dude, fucking Valhalla, they're a bunch of bitches
Hmm.
because not Hanma and Kazutora, both of them wouldn't fight one on one.
No, they wouldn't.
No,
I
none of
know.
them.
No, none of them would. And they had double the members. Okay, so obviously they have double. That means there's two to each person, whatever. But it was really like 4 or 5 people on Drake and 3 people on Mikey.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many people were surrounding Takamichi
Mm-hmm.
when he was back to back with with whatever, I forget the dude's name, but they were back to back with like 10 guys around them. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and like luring them into traps, like they lured Mikey into a trap. Hanma lured Draken into a trap, and I was like, I'm kind of surprised that some of the other gang leaders aren't looking at this like in a negative way for Valhalla, because they're not fighting them one on one or like a fair fight. They're
Mhm.
setting up traps and using weapons, and I feel like if you bring a weapon to a fight like that, that's like a big no.
Yeah, it's like a gang, like a huge fight like that. Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be like only fists.
Right, like a pride thing, and Valhalla just had none of it.
They didn't.
It-
They felt very hollow on their part. Like they did not feel like they were ganging up on people, but they didn't feel like a group though.
no,
Like Toman feels like an actual group of people who are fighting together for something.
right, and they care about each other. They're like saving each other.
Hmm.
But yeah, Valhalla is just this ragtag group of jackasses that all came together to try to kill Mikey,
Mikey.
essentially.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're exactly right. That's kind of what it feels like on how why they're grouped together and why they are who they are.
Yep.
I like one of the things with Draken. Is it Draken or Draken? I forget. I'm going back between pronunciations right now.
I think it's Draken.
Draken.
I
Okay.
think. I don't know.
In the fight with Draken and Hanma, we realized. I also realized that Hanma is also a glass cannon.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's super. Like he can fight, but when he gets hit, he was kind of like he was like getting hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and like he was getting like when Draken first kicked him, they like pushed him all the way back into the cars. It was like, okay, like you're not as strong as your defenses are not good whatsoever.
Yeah, that's why he has minions to defend him.
Yeah, he had a lot of he has a you're right. Even in past when he was fighting Mikey, it was all these minions around him as like his little henchmen that like protect him. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like, okay, you can only fight if you have henchmen around you. You can only do something with your sin and punishment hand if you can like have a bunch of people around that can protect you.
Yeah, this guy sucks.
He
That's what it
sucks.
is.
I don't like Hanma. He
No.
definitely like, and the writers and the animators and directors are doing an amazing job to really make you hate certain characters
Yeah, they are.
and love others. Like I like Hanma, I hate Kazutoro. I have such a love hate relationship
Mm-hmm.
to his character, right? Like he was abused as a child. Like he had to choose between his mom and his dad. Like he obviously was traumatized, like by his own father. Like we saw that he like he wants to kill Mikey because he feels like Mikey's the reason why he like if he had never met Mikey, he would never killed his brother and he never would have went to juvie, right? So he
Mm-hmm.
blames like Mikey for just being the catalyst in his life that kind of diverted him down that path
Mm-hmm.
of being a delinquent. And it's almost like I don't blame you because like you need to take responsibility for yourself. Like you can have your traumas, but you also have to take responsibility. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
balancing act,
Yeah.
and you can't blame somebody in your past by like that's like me. Like if something happened between you and I'm like, damn, I wish I never met Nick in our freshman year usability class. Like
Yeah.
damn him for doing that. It's like, dude, like how are you supposed to know that 8 years ago? For our case, 8 years ago, that someone was going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really reaching for connections to put the blame on something, not on
Yes,
his own actions.
exactly. And I think he's going to end up dying because of it.
I mean, if the past continues the way that it did,
Yeah.
he's definitely dying.
The only thing, and with Takamichi, he really has changed a little bit, but hasn't done anything like huge yet for
Mhm.
changing the past. And like maybe this will be the one big moment that he can actually change. But so far, we haven't seen him change like anything drastic.
Right. Like he's gonna stop Mikey from killing him.
Exactly. And we haven't seen Baji either. So Baji's supposed to die and Kazutora is supposed to die. So like, does he stop Mikey from killing Kazutoro, but someone ends up killing Baji anyway? Or is he going to be able to do both? Like, I can't see him being a character who has a hard time up to this point stopping the past and then being able to do both.
Right.
You know,
And we still don't know how Baji died. Like they never told us,
they
right?
never told us. No. So we have no idea what to look out for, who's going to do it, how it's going to get done, at what point it's going to get, you know, like
Mhm.
what is it, Mikey killing Kazutoro and then like Hanma kills Baji because of it? Like, does everyone in Valhalla kill Baji afterwards for being a traitor? Like, we don't know. So
Yeah. Yeah. What if he tries to step in to stop Mikey from killing Kazutoro, and in a blind, blood fueled rage, Mikey kills Baji,
mhm.
and then he kills both?
Yeah,
Maybe.
and
I don't know.
that's a great point. We don't know. And then on top of all of that, Takamichi is supposed to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
I
don't know
don't know
how
how he's gonna
successful
do
he's
it.
going to be. I don't.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have a good track record enough for me to believe that he's going to be able to stop both of those things.
Yeah. Who would you rather him save?
Uh, when you first asked me that, I thought Baji.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to save Baji, but then it's like him killing Kazutoro might be a greater catalyst for the future and for the takeover of Toman, because Mikey killing Kazutoro means that Mikey goes away, right? And then Kasaki could step in and take over Toman, and he has Valhalla, so he puts it together and he has a crew of almost 500, right?
Yeah.
So if Baji dies, that doesn't mean Mikey leaves Toman.
Right.
So that kind of continues the storyline.
Okay. Good analysis.
So my first thought was Baji, but then it just doesn't make sense. I think Kazutora might end up not dying.
That's a good analysis. I like that.
Thank you.
Are we segueing off? Because I just realized something.
What'd you realize?
I just realized that I watched To Your Eternity last night or
Yeah.
2 nights ago or something, and I only watched half the episode.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sad about that.
You missed a huge episode, bro.
Oh no.
You
I'm
missed
pretty
a
sad.
huge episode. We're almost 2 more episodes until this is over. You missed.
I'm pretty sad about that.
I mean,
Oh man. Do you want to I mean, you can still talk about it. I won't
what
mind.
part did you watch up to? Can you remember?
What's her name? The little girl was like sending a letter down to Fushi in the well.
Okay, you missed a lot of stuff.
Oh no. I want you to talk about it though. That's fine. I'll watch it after we're done here.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just thinking like, I don't know how I'm going to break some of this to you. Okay. So obviously she sends the letter down to March, right? I mean, not to March, the letter down to Fushi to get him out of the well. Fushi was already out of the well. Like he had already escaped. And they ended up escaping almost off the island. But they're standing on the edge of the island and a storm rolls in, so they can't leave. So they stay the night in a cave and they have like a really nice heart to heart. And she ends up crying in her sleep and she dreams up of a new reality with her new, like Tanara realizes that she needs to dream a new reality and not kind of rely on the old dream of being with her parents because they're gone.
Okay.
So she thinks, I need to be with these new people who are my friends, but I want to make them into my family. So it's like a nice cut scene with everybody like frolicking on like a nice island, and Fushi's there, and all her friends are there.
Mm-hmm.
The sun comes up, and then they're about to leave, and the narrator appears and says the knockers are on the island. And then Fushi needs to make a decision between like, do I leave the island and leave everybody out to die to the knockers, or do I stay here and fight the knockers and save everyone on the island? And Tanari's like, if God wants it, God will it. You know, you don't have to stay here. And Fushi was like, because they had a conversation about what God is and what demons are.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I need to do this myself. Like, I got to go. And he turns around, he runs back towards like the mainland of the island. And we realize the knockers are actually taking over the dead bodies of the people that were in the pit from the tournament that they had.
So no longer is it just like wood and stone. They can manipulate bodies now.
They can make any bodies now. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. And it's not just dead bodies either. So eventually what happens is Tanari and Fushi are fighting the knockers off, and they're really easily killable, like the people whose bodies are taken over. And all of a sudden Mia's friends show up, like that, like a little ragtag group of kids. And they end up joining Fushi and Mia and Fushi and Tanari in fighting the knockers. Well, they start running towards the pit to like start fighting more of these knockers, and all of a sudden the knocker shoots its tongue out of the ground and grabs one of the little girl's legs, Opa, and injects the tongue into her arm and takes over her body and kills her.
Damn.
And then Mia runs over to her to save her, to chop the little tongue shit that like wraps around her leg. And Opa picked up a spear and stabbed Mia in the stomach.
Tanari?
No, Opa. It's like she's like a little girl. She's like the littlest girl in their squad.
Who's Mia?
Mia's the girl with the red hair.
Okay.
Stabbed Mia.
Damn.
And then Mia is dying, and they run away, and they have a little bit of time to spare. And it's the boy, Leroy. I think it's Lurie. Mia, who's dying, Tanari, Fushi, right? And then I think it's one other person. Yeah, then it's one other person. And then like the one, I think there's another little girl, the one that controls the owl, I think. And what ends up happening is that Fushi is going to kill the little girl Opa, and he pulls the sword up to kill her and then doesn't, right? And he choked and didn't do it. And then the knocker takes over Mia's body, and the dude Leroy gets a knocker in his arm, and he takes a sword and chops his arm off. Damn. Right? And his arm goes flying. And then Fushi, he like picks up Fushi, and Fushi turns into a mole, and then he throws Fushi the mole up into the air, and the owl grabs Fushi and takes him away, while Tanari and the other girl are taking like Tanari and the other girl are running away. And then the kid Lori is like standing there, and he's like, I know I'm gonna die, and like this is just how it is, and like I'm gonna enjoy like a peaceful transition into paradise. And all of a sudden the knocker just like takes over his body.
Damn.
And then that's the end of the episode.
Damn.
Yeah.
You're right. I missed a big episode.
Yeah. It was big.
The knockers can now take over humans. That's a huge thing. The knockers won.
Yeah.
And Fushi escaped. Did he lose any forms?
I think he lost his main, because he lost the boy.
Really?
Yeah, or he lost Gugu again. I forget which one he lost, but they did suck him up and turn him into March.
Damn.
So he might have lost the unnamed boy's form, which is like, it's kind of crazy. And then like the end credits, the scene after that's teeing off the next episode is even crazier. And it's like Fushi must make a decision, and it's like Hayase is like holding Tanari over a fire pit.
What was she doing this whole time?
She was like standing on top of like the castle, watching everything happen.
But she's
She
like,
didn't go. Yeah, she didn't do anything.
bitch.
Yeah.
She-
And this is what's leading me to like I like this show a lot, but I'm really, really mad at Fushi.
What, for leaving?
No, it's like I'm mad at Fushi because every time he's making a connection with somebody, he's always failing to help them or save them.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is squarely his battle, and he is dragging people into this that don't deserve to be dragged into this, and they're dying.
Yeah, if you think about it, each time he's fought the knockers, more people have been involved.
Yes, and they keep getting stronger, the knockers.
Mm-hmm.
The situations become more dire, and more people are dying because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like at this point, Fushi, you gotta stop choking at every time you have to do something.
Yeah.
You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he doesn't want to hurt people. That's his whole thing. But his actions are what cause people to be hurt.
exactly. His actions are a direct result of more people getting hurt. Like he could have killed that girl, or not killed her. She was a knocker at that point. She was dead, and she was a knocker.
Mm-hmm.
If he would have slashed her down and killed that knocker, then they would have been then Lori, the boy with the bow and arrow, wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
And it's like the more people you're killing more people by your inaction, and he's really starting to piss me off.
I understand that. Yeah. Stop being such a pacifist. Like, I can man up, grow
Yeah.
something, grow some
And like
balls.
while Mia was laying there and dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were like, Fushi, what can you do? And he's like, just starts making shit like cups and bowls and like a thread. And like, he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't have anything to do anything. And the one little kid like picks up like the needle and the thread. He's like, maybe we can sew the wound shut with this needle. And Tanari's like, Lori before he died was like, I can pull the spear out of her body. And Tanari was like freaking out. She's like, no, it'll make the bleeding worse. And Fushi's just standing there like, oh, I'm immortal and I have access to literally any type of form that I could ever come up with. Yet I haven't done enough research or haven't done enough exploring. And I really have just been here for 5 years and have done nothing,
Yeah.
essentially.
Starting to agree with the narrator more and more.
Yeah. It's like, if you don't get out there and start doing stuff, it's going to get worse for you. And Fushi reminds me of somebody, like he reminds me of like what debt feels like. Like you're in debt and it's hard to get out of it. And like as you're trying to claw yourself out of it, if you put yourself more in debt by not putting more into it, it just keeps like dragging you down,
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like he's in debt with time or in debt with experience
Mm-hmm.
or forms, like he spent 4 years with Gugu and then like I would say like another year being alive. So like, well, who knows how long he was with the boy for, when they were trekking to find March.
Yeah.
So it's been like 5+ years at this point.
Yeah.
And he's got like what, 4 or 5 forms. And he just realized in the Jananda Island arc that he can like create like he's actually like starting to create more things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, do something, Fushi.
Yeah, I'm on board with you, and I'm on board with the narrator. Like, if we follow the same trajectory, like the first knocker battle was just him and the knocker.
Mm-hmm.
Gugu was in the second one. The third one, Gugu died, and they were in like that castle or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So more people. And now this one, hundreds of people are dying, and he's on this island, this prison island. So if we're following this trajectory, like it's going to be in like a big city, and the knockers are going to come, and it's going to be 1,000 people that are affected by it.
I think you're right. I think you're totally right. Yeah, just based off what I've seen, I think you're right there.
Oh, off of you never finished the preview for the next episode.
No, that was pretty much the preview. It was just like Fushi needs to make a decision.
Yeah.
And the part that pissed me off was like that made me even angrier, I would say, is that Hayashi's holding Tanari off the edge of what seems to be like a fire pit or a volcano or like lava or something. And Tanari like grabs her arm and like pulls her forward, like pulls her. She's like, if you're going to kill me, I'm just going to kill us both. And it's just like Fushi's just like standing there watching it happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're going to like let her kill Tanari, and then you're going to let Tanari accept death and kill Heisey at the same time. Like, it's like he's letting other people do things for him that he
Yeah.
should be doing himself. Like, that
Yeah.
boy should not have had to chop his arm off. Like, Mia should not have gotten stabbed. That girl should not have been taken over by a knocker. Mia should not have been stabbed. Leroy should not have had to chop his own arm off and self-sacrifice himself. And Tanari should not be being held over a volcanic like lava being dropped by Hyacine and having to do a self-sacrifice to also kill Hyacine as well.
Yeah. Dude,
Like,
you're
Fushi's
immortal.
not. Yeah, you're immortal. What are you doing? You know?
Yeah. Although, think about it. He is immortal because he can keep regenerating. What if he got thrown into lava? Because he's just going to keep regenerating and get burned by lava.
Yeah, it'll be like he'll have a form and then it'll dissolve into lava, and then he'll have a form. It's like the same thing when he was like walking without. Remember before he met March, he was just like wandering through the woods, and like he would just fall over into the water and crack his head open, and then all of a sudden he would be fine again. It'd be the same thing, but just in lava. He'd be good, and then he'd die, but it would be almost like instantaneously.
Yeah.
Until he swam his way out or something, you know?
Yeah. Rocks don't burn in lava.
They don't.
They
do
might.
not.
I think they might actually, though. This man needs a training arc. That's what we need.
You know what, Nick? I think you're right. He definitely needs a training arc.
Yeah. We thought we were going to get it with this island because, like, the gladiator battles were like, this is it. He's finally going to get a bunch of fighting experience. And then he had like 3 fights and didn't actually fight in them.
It did nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose at the last second again." Even though she killed Verona, I'm just gonna let her win again.
This man's needs a training arc.
He needs a training arc. He needs something in life, but he's got all the time in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Literally, he's immortal.
It don't matter what he does. He's got all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Speaking of time, I'm gonna segue us.
Go rip us right through it.
Speaking of time, Peach Boy Riverside, time is all sorts of messed up, and it's real confusing.
It's real confusing. That was one of the things that I came out of this episode with. I was like, this show would be good, be better.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say it's bad, but it's okay. It's good. I think it would be better if the episodes were in order.
Yeah, this was episode 3.
Yes.
Do you realize that?
Yeah. So episode 3.
What episode number was it?
7.
Yeah, but it was 3.
It was 3, right? Because that should have, like, after the ogre blew through the whole town and killed everybody, right? And it ended. And then we just went to a whole random new episode, right?
Yep.
And like this episode, like this I would say was a correct episode 3, right? Because the girl ogre finally got her name, which is Carrot, which I thought was always so weird. They was just calling her Carrot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did I miss something? Because sometimes I do miss stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And like, it was weird that they were just calling her Carrot. Like, I'm like, wow, that's a weird name. Like, Frau loves carrots. Like, I just don't get it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, because Frau named her Carrot.
Yeah, which is like, that's great. You know, that was a funny interaction. It was first the Japanese word for carrot, right? And then somehow she knew English, so she knew carrot, and that was a funny interaction.
Yeah, it was funny, and it was like, wow, this would have been cool at episode 3. Like, it would have been cool to see the knight really be like, because I forget his name, but to like really mourn the loss of everybody in his town that he was supposed to protect, which is, I would say, would be very traumatic, and you'd have shell shock for a really long time.
Yeah, literally everything and everyone that you know is just gone in an instant. Like, yeah, you think
I don't think a fist bump from a demi-human is really going to solve your issues there.
Yeah, and we learned more about like the main villain players in this episode, who've kind of been in and out in the other episodes, but yeah, we like, it made so much sense if it was in order. It wasn't. And the nun girl, like, when we saw her last episode or 2, I don't even know what episode we saw her. Like, she was post ogre, and like Sally took her horn, cut her horn off. In
Mm.
this episode, when we first meet her, she's not even an ogre yet. She's just an ungirl. And the
Oh, is that
dude,
true?
I this all right, this is my guess, but the dude was like scheming when
Sumarage, the
yeah,
tall ass dude. Yeah.
yeah, when she ran up to him, like, because he's just playing priest right now. He's like a traveling priest.
Yeah.
And she ran up to him. I'm assuming like she knows him and trusts him because he's a priest. But he
Hmm.
was like scheming, like, you're gonna help me do something, something, something. And he hinted that he could give ogre powers back to Carrot.
Mm.
Like, he probably gives her ogre powers for whatever his scheme is. And then, spoiler, she loses it because we've seen that already in a flashback in an episode that was past the episode that we just watched, but we saw it before that.
Hmm.
It's all out of whack, man.
It's all out of whack. Nick, I just don't get it. I don't know if I necessarily like it. It would be much more fulfilling if it was all in order, because you're right. There's like a lot of things that we're not considering, like that nun, Milia, like she was a human and then Samaraga gave her powers, and now like that's why she's like a fighter, and like, or the fact that like Samaraga confronted Karen and was like, yo, like, do you want to be my spy?
Mhm.
And like that's a huge part. Like usually in television show and like shows or in general, the audience would know about an interaction like that when
That's
it
what is that?
happens.
That's like one of the forms of irony where the audience knows something, but people on stage don't. And it's like,
Exactly.
that's good writing because it gives you an in to, and like you can see things happening, but like we never knew that. And I'm
Exactly.
that might have framed our view on some of her interactions later,
Yep.
but we
And we
already
would have
saw
been
them.
exactly. So it's not like we're going to go back and watch them, because when we go back and watch them, they're not in order. So it's like we now from episode 3, now we're thinking about episode 4 or 5, well, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're like, okay, those 4 episodes, like, how do we go back and think about the interactions between Carrot and the rest of the group? Like, does she actually like them? Is she being facetious? Is she being fake? Is she like growing onto them? Is she like struggling with being a double agent? Or does
Mhm.
she want to be a part of their group? Like, those are all really important things as an audience to grapple with. But if we don't know that she was approached to be a double agent for them, to be a spy, then it doesn't matter to us.
No, it doesn't. That scene where she stood up to the vampire ogre, it was like, these are my companions, don't hurt them. Yeah, like that would have meant a lot more had we known this.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot more. You're right. If we would have known that she was grappling with whether or not to be a spy.
Yeah, it's all sorts of mess. It's messed up, man. And
Yeah,
it's sad because I think this is a good show.
I do too. I'm really, really bummed out with the order that they presented it to us in.
Man, my anime list ranking is gonna drop.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just so bummed out. Like, I don't know. And it's airing in order in Japan. I guess just for the American, just for the English release, it just wasn't, you know?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I wonder what people are like talking about. Like, it seems like other people are upset as well.
Yeah, I always look at the Crunchyroll comments for this one for some reason. And the first one I saw was like, oh, it's time to spin the roulette wheel. Is it going to be the past, present, future? What are we like? It was like, what timeline are we going to be in this time?
Yeah, it's like, who knows?
Yeah, so weird. Bummer.
Like, I'm reading some of like the My Anime List comments, and like this one person says, like, Peach Boy Riverside, the anime that decides to fling itself into the dumpster because it couldn't decide to follow the chronological order just to look edgy, but don't drop it just yet. This other person says, I feel sorry for Peach Boy and for anyone who really looked forward to this. While it's never really a bad show by any stretch, the story is there, the characters seem fun, and the art style is colorful and can be dark when it wants to be. The main issue is how the first couple of episodes are laid out,
Mhm.
and that's what hurts the show most. Imagine if you have a good story to tell, but you can't tell this or that part of the story, or so you rush through it just to jump to certain parts.
So that's such a bummer.
It really is.
I wonder if like the manga is highly rated, like this, because that's the story as it's supposed to be. I wonder if
Mhm.
it's good.
let's see. The manga on my anime list has a 7.7.15 rating. So like some
Yeah.
people like it. Like the most recent reviews I'm seeing are the ones that have the most help are 8, 9, and 9. So people do like it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's not like a 10. It's not like an Attack on
It's
Titan, but
not,
it's
yeah.
not it's not a shitty anime. Like, it's enjoyable for
Yeah.
a manga.
It's
So,
weird because most shows, their failings come from the show that itself.
mhm,
Like the voice acting is bad, the art is bad, the storytelling isn't there. Like they're missing key components, and it's like that's not happening here. It's literally the order in the show that was being like put out in order, out of
mhm.
order,
Yep.
is what its downfall is,
Mhm,
which I find to be like really sad because like a lot of work goes into creating a single anime. So like a
mhm.
lot of hard work was put into creating the show, and then it just gets a bad rap because it's out of order.
Yep. Some dude in a suit made a decision somewhere without consulting probably the main creative team, and now it suffers.
Now that's ain't that the truth, man? Ain't that the truth? That's usually how it goes.
Yep.
Nick and I have worked in tech long enough to know,
Yep.
and creative endeavors, and then long enough that that's how it usually goes.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? I mean, let's finish it out. It's not droppable. I don't think it's not.
No,
It's not the detective is already dead, which is just a bad story.
yeah.
It's just
I
out
have
of
a
order.
confession for you, Nick.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
I watched the 7th episode of The Detective's Already Dead.
Don't tell me it gets good now.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Good.
We saved our time, bro.
Good.
We saved our time. The 7th episode is broken into 2 parts. The first part, he's running around with that little girl trying to find some gem or whatever, and it makes no sense. And then the second half of the episode is him and Siesta in a bed, and they're like talking, and they're like, pillow talking, whatever. And then like they wake up the next morning, and she's like wants to inject him with some like weird liquid to reverse his like like memories. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
I saved you time. There you go.
Thank you for your
I
sacrifice.
just had to see, like I had to know, like I got that FOMO, like, is it going to be bad? Like, we dropped it, and then maybe the episode 7 is when things like shape together, and we're like, oh my god, like everything makes sense. Like, this is actually cool. But then you're like, nope, that's not it. That's not it at all.
Just a bad story.
Just a bad story. The light novel readers seem to really, really enjoy it, but it's just a bad story overall, Nick.
Yeah.
It's not a bad
Next.
story.
Yeah. Next.
Moonlit Fantasy.
My favorite story.
My favorite story. I feel like we're really settling in to this show.
Mm-hmm.
We're really getting into like the groove of it almost. Like the first few episodes, we're like, oh, everything's new. And we're like, building up like who the crew is going to be and like where we're at. And that was all like really great and like really like foundational to the show. Like we know what the demi-plane is. We know what he's doing. Like he has like this overarching goal of like seeing his parents, but we're kind of seeing like the groove, him
Mm-hmm.
existing in this plane.
Mm-hmm. It's all been world building up to this point, and it's been really good at it. I think, at least.
I agree. I think it's really great world building, even to the point where it's like they just with isekais, they either just drop you in and you figure it out as you go and new things appear, or in this case, they do the world building in the very beginning. And I think that they did a really good job. Like in this episode, we're even realizing that he wants to create like an illusory city. It's pretty much like a middle point.
Yeah, such a good idea too.
Yeah, and it is a great idea, and we're gonna see like we saw like so many funny bits this episode when he was like trying to apply for his merchant guild.
Mm-hmm.
Even starts prior to that when he goes to like that other like the trading company, the Rembrandt trading company, and he's like, I'd like to trade with you. He's like, I'm rank E level 1, and they're like, absolutely not. Like I want nothing to do with you. And like he's like, oh, here's everything I have, and just like throws it on the table, and they're like, oh my god. And then same thing happens when he takes his test. Like the written test is like elementary school level, and then like he needs to find these crazy materials in 3 days, and he's like, oh, of equal value, and just like throws them down. And you're like, oh my god, like you're crazy. And it's like, even though he's not fighting in super strong, like we're showing like his strength in other ways throughout
And
the
like
show.
intellect and cunningness. And
Yeah.
it's, I think something that's so cool is usually the main character is OP, right?
Mhm.
It's a thing. But usually it's like some past event or hidden power within them. And his is literally just because he existed in the human world for his whole life.
Yeah.
That's
That's a
it.
really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
His power comes from just existence in the human world.
Yeah. And that's it. I find that so entertaining for some reason.
Yeah. It's like, it's such a different take on isekais
Hmm.
that and there's so many isekais out, like they release so many a season,
Hmm.
and it's hard to stand out amongst the crowd. And I really think like Moonlit Fantasy, between its humor and like its like differentness, that it does stand out.
I 100% agree. It's my favorite show this season.
Is it really?
It is. It's just so entertaining. The characters are so funny. Like the dynamic that he has with like these Tomei and Mio are like
Mhm.
super powerful.
Mhm.
Nobody has stood a chance against them, but they just cower to him because it's just an interesting dynamic and it's so fun.
It is the quirkiness. I really do like this show. It's
Hmm.
not a show that requires a lot of like analysis and like
Hmm.
in-depthness, but it's just something that's like enjoyable.
Yeah. I think we might get there eventually where it's going to require a bit. Once we start having some antagonists that actually matter, like we had
Yeah.
some show up in this at the end of this episode. That dude who's just kind of following him around, and he's like,
Mhm.
I'm going to gather all the heroes you can. We're going to stop him because he wants to stop Rembrandt, which is the trading company that he made this deal with because maybe they're actually not all that good.
Mhm.
We don't know yet, but yeah.
That's actually really true. I didn't think about that in that context. Like, yeah, there hasn't been really an antagonist, and there's always an antagonist that comes along that proves to be a formidable foe.
Hmm.
Like even in One Punch Man,
Yeah.
where Boris, like at the end of the first season, it's like, oh, he's really strong, but like now One Punch Man, it's like not, like the Monster Association is like, giving them a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
And that could easily happen in this show as well. It's like everything's hunky dory until like an actual foe shows up that is a problem.
Yeah. Or maybe it doesn't. And maybe that's why this show's so great because, like, think every other show
Mhm.
has just been the hero's journey.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
maybe
true.
this one doesn't, it's not following it now. We haven't hit any of the points of the circle on the hero's
Mhm.
journey. We haven't hit any of them. So maybe it just doesn't do it. And that's why it's so refreshing and fun.
It doesn't. They just like totally ignore. And I could see them doing that in a show that is like partly a comedy,
Hmm.
where they're just like totally ignore those. Comedies do that sometimes. They
Hmm.
ignore major plot, not points, but just like cliches because it's funny,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And it's so self-aware of, what's going on. Maybe it's just like a parody almost.
Huh. I could see that. I could see
Yeah.
this being a parody.
I mean, One Punch Man's kind of a parody.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just following those footsteps. It's got similar humor, similar OP-ness. Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it too. I'm gonna hold on to that thought now as I watch it. That it could be a parody.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep that close to me because I do think that's possible.
Yeah.
Awesome. Damn, that was cool.
Not much more to say though. It's
That's pretty
fun.
much yeah, that's pretty much it. It can't be. But we have like one like real hitter left though, Nick.
Yes, we do.
My Hero Academia.
Yes, 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 yes.
Episode
Finally,
19. Yes.
finally, some meat.
It took us 19 episodes to get here, Nick.
Yes, it
It
did.
took us 19, well, I guess 18 full episodes to get to episode 19. That was a lot of time, bro. A
Yeah.
lot of time goes into that. you know?
Yeah, and we learned so much this episode.
Dude, so much. First off, I would like to say that not in 18 episodes, we almost 400 minutes of watch time to get to this point. I'll have you know,
Mhm.
which is a little bit more than 6 hours of watch time just to get to
Mhm.
some meat this season. I'm
No,
just saying it did take a long time, but we
yeah,
finally got here. And
we
boy,
had
is there a lot to go over.
there is. I mean, we had some appetizers,
Yeah, yeah, we did. We
like the
did.
black whip and
Hmm.
the little the vestiges,
Yeah.
which just went away, but that's okay. But yeah, the League of Villains, their whole plan, what they're doing
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
finally starting to come into fruition.
Yes. And from the very top, we see they like arrive back. They return to UA from their work study. So the Endeavor Agency arc is officially over.
Mhm.
We see the girls talking in the locker room, and Uraka drops the little All Might keychain that
Mhm.
Deku gave her. And they're like, oh my God, you're finally together, whatever. And she's like, oh no, 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 it's nothing, I promise. I thought that was really sweet. And it's like really like their relationship is, I know this isn't like a romance anime as much as it some people want it to be,
Mhm.
but um I thought that was cute.
Yeah, it takes back to like those middle school,
Hmm.
fun time relationships where it's like they both like each other, but they don't do anything about it because they don't really know what to do. And it's fun to watch.
Hmm. It is. And it was nice to get a little bit of that. That's the great thing about My Hero is that they still give you those things,
Hmm.
those little tidbits of like fun, heartwarming, wholesome amongst an entire episode of just like real heavy material.
Yeah, dude.
And we learned a lot.
Just real quick, one more fun thing.
Yeah.
When Bakugo threw his spike at Deku and
Mhm.
like it impaled his head, they're like, "Oh, he's about to bleed out," and like I was dying laughing at that, and like it affected him for the rest of the walk. He's just like spewing nonsense. I just thought that was hilarious.
I thought that was so much funny. He zombified him. I laughed
It-
too. I was like,
yeah,
damn, that actually is really, really funny.
yeah. And that was it. All right, back to the meat.
No, no, no. It's good that you brought that up because I do have that as a note as well. I was just, skipping over it. I'm just like so excited to like really talk about what happened in this episode.
Yeah. So Eraserhead showing emotion has been the high point of this whole season.
It
Like,
had right. We have never seen him smile, laugh, smirk,
yeah,
enjoy himself, do anything about it.
we got like some background to him. Like
Hmm.
he was furious, he was crying. It was like he was like grasping at straws to try to bring his friend back, and it
Yeah,
was kind of working. So it was awesome.
it was awesome, and it it was surprising how or why it didn't work though. You
It
know,
I mean it kind of did,
it
but it
kind
didn't.
of did, but that was a really heavy for it to only kind of work though.
Yeah, they got one word out of it, which was hospital.
Hospital. And that kind of to me shows that the League of Villains and the science that they have backing them of
Hmm.
turning these corpses into nomus is really, really strong.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we found out. Like the Nomu that almost killed Endeavor
Hmm.
was a street fighter
Yeah.
that I'm assuming died or they killed him, and they used his body and mashed up a bunch of other quirks, which I think they named whose quirks it was, but I don't really remember,
Hmm.
to create that Nomu, who was like almost took out the number one hero. Like
Yeah.
he was super strong.
Yes.
And we learned that like the personalities of the corpse that they use the vessel like come through in the Nomus.
Hmm.
Somehow in Kurogori,
Hmm.
the shadowy guy,
Yep.
he is better at suppressing it than the other Nomu was.
Yes.
So shadow guy Kuroguri, whatever his name is, somehow they realized because of his quirk and like the similarities with um the Mike guy and Ayazawa,
Hmm.
uh was like it was like their third person in their trio growing up, going through class, and
Mhm.
they took so he died in like a building collapse,
Yep.
or everyone thinks that he died.
It
He
was a
might not
building.
have died, and he got, they the League of Villains pulled him out. He was dead. Who knows? But they used his quirk, combined it with another corpse or something, and that's how they got Shadow Guy.
Yep.
And that's what we learned in this episode.
Yeah. Um, which is, I don't like, wild now that we're realizing that they're like, these Nomus aren't just like synthetic beings that they're creating from nothing. They're actual humans served as the basis.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm thinking back to like, okay, remember when the League of Villains almost like stole Bakugo?
Yeah.
Like, what if they turned him into a Nomu? Like, and they took his base like personality.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, like, well, you turn, like, theoretically speaking, you turn Deku into a Nomu. He's not really going to have the drive or want to kill or hurt somebody, you know? He's going to be probably the most pacifist Nomu that they've ever created. Well, you take someone like Bakugo and turn him into a Nomu, he's going to become like an insane killing machine, you know? He's going to want to fight absolutely everybody and be the best or the number one, you know?
Number one Nomu.
Number one Nomu, yeah, by killing off all of the best heroes.
Yeah, and he's
So
got the
things
quirk
like,
for it.
yeah, he's got the quirk for it, but their quirks are all the basis of these Nomu quirks. So they would like smash him up with like a bunch of other stuff and turn him into like some super fighter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like, and All For One even said that, like, you know, they're scrounging for scraps, which means they're around UA because they're scrounging for scraps, which is like, he's saying like he's looking out for opportunities to take heroes that either die or they fall and become villains. You know, so it's like they're out there. They know that they're producing the best heroes, and Bakugo was one of on the outliers of heroes that could be stolen and turned into Nomus, not to be added to the League of Villains, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, that really makes that scene impact a lot differently when you know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
because I remember when we first saw that scene, or when I first saw that scene, I was thinking like I had at that time, I was like, Bakugo could be someone who turns into a villain.
yeah,
I think he's proven recently that that's probably not going to happen.
mm-hmm.
He's too prideful. He's a good guy deep down.
Yeah.
So they weren't trying to turn him into a villain. They were trying to steal his body, essentially. Yeah. Damn.
That's what I think that's the first thing I jumped to. I'm like, okay, they tried to steal his body.
Yeah. Wow. Makes that scene a whole lot different now.
It makes it a whole lot different. And it's something that they're going to continue to try to do. But from what we saw from the ending, like the actual end,
Mm-hmm.
like it seems like they're trying to turn, what's his name?
Shigaraki.
Is it Shigaraki?
I think so.
Tamura?
The dude with the hand on his face.
Yeah. Shigaraki, yeah.
Yeah.
He was going through some like crazy procedure.
Yeah, he had like something was like impaled through his body. And they were like shocking him, and shit's building, man.
So it's like they're building him to be something that's like, I feel like they're turning him into like the ultimate apex villain.
He's got a really scary quirk.
He does.
Yeah,
It's decay, right?
Yeah, so he can just like touch somebody and they'll decay into nothing.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that they're trying to like, I think Nomus in a weird way are like failed experiments.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're smashing a bunch of quirks into one person,
Mm-hmm.
and they turn into these like different beings that are almost like that are very primal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a certain strong person or body that's capable enough of absorbing all of these quirks to not turn into a Nomu. And
Yeah.
I think what they're doing with Shigaraki is like putting a bunch of quirks in him, and he won't turn into a Nomu. He'll be strong enough to hold all those quirks in his body, not to be transformed.
Dude, is that why they wanted that little girl with the horn the whole time? Because her
Yeah.
quirk
Yes.
can like reverse time aging or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, like,
And they were going to use her, I think, as a way to like, okay, that didn't work. Let's go back. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let's go back. You know?
wow. Man, the pieces really all fall together now. Like it
Yeah.
seemed like nothing really was happening, but a lot was happening. We just didn't know why or at the time that it was a
Yeah.
big deal.
And this kind of goes into the storytelling we were talking about with like Peach Boy Riverside. Like with only a few episodes, it's hard to do those types of things. But when you
Yeah.
have more than 100 episodes, and you have full big stories within those arcs,
Hmm.
like there was an entire story around her,
Yeah.
right? An entire arc that revolved around her. And it's okay, and it's good that we know what they were doing, but it didn't explain everything right away
Right.
because there's a lot more to absorb and think about, and all the stuff that they told in that story in that arc mattered, but there was definitely more going on that we don't realize or didn't realize at that time.
Wow. Man, this has made me like the show that much more.
Yeah, it's cool. Like this is a great show, and they're
Yeah.
really doing a lot of cool things with it. And when people were talking about like, oh, after the 1B 1A arc, things get like crazy, I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, it was like all building up to this point,
Yeah.
essentially.
There's a lot
Wow.
of building that I guess had to happen because like, yeah, these are like untrained kids with quirks. So we had to go through a lot of training, you know,
Hmm.
to get to the point where they can actually fight the league. Because it wouldn't be believable if they just like took these kids first year. All right, go fight the strongest villains that we've ever seen. You know,
Yeah.
like it took a lot of episodes to build up what it meant to like have a quirk and figure out how to use it, and then see the fall of All Might, and then it get left onto Endeavor, and then see someone get their quirk taken from them. There's a lot of things that needed to happen to build rapport with the audience for something
Yeah.
before the story starts to like kick off.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
And
have so
that's
much more respect for the show now.
yeah, me too. That's a lot. That's good storytelling.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
I know.
Is that all
That's
of it?
yeah,
Did we
that's
do all
it.
of them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we dropped detective, so that's pretty much it. Um, I did want to talk to you
Hmm.
about adding a new show.
Okay.
But I don't know what you think. And um, the cool thing about it is, so what's just like we're in the middle of the season, right? Um, and a new show just dropped called Fina Pirate Princess, and it's
Hmm.
a show from Crunchyroll and Adult Swim.
Oh.
So it has like it's very blended in its Eastern and Western influences.
Hmm.
And there's a anime TikToker that I think has some of the best opinions on anime. His name is Akizora, if you guys know him. Uh, he said that this was a really good show and might actually be the best one of the season. Has
Yeah.
potential, which is interesting. I mean, like, and there's only 2 episodes out, and like we get to see it as American audience prior to the Japanese audience. Like
Yeah.
they get it in October, they get it in the fall, and we're getting it now.
Hmm.
So like it's a good opportunity just to like pick it up and watch it. But I don't know, like there's only 2 episodes out right now, and I think it might be worthwhile to like pick it up and watch it and see if it's good or not.
You definitely piqued my interest. I've always liked Adult Swim.
Mm-hmm.
This is something new. Uh, like anime wise, you don't. That's not something you see that often. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So we're gonna add Fina, Pirate
Let's,
Princess.
let's do it. Do you have a fired up section for us today, Damian?
I think we have a little bit.
We have a little bit. Let's hear it.
Damien's fired up. Well, so I've been watching a lot of shows.
Mhm.
A lot of shows, Nick. Some shows I just was like, I had a good look in the mirror this past week. And I was like, you know what? You can't watch everything. And that's okay, you know? So I did some rearranging and I dropped a few things, did some thinking. So I'm like, okay, I want to save some stuff for later. You know, there's nothing wrong. You don't gotta watch it, you know, you can always binge watch it later, you know. So I'm saving Sonny Boy for later. I'm saving how a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom, and I'm saving some other stuff. But there's other shows that I've been watching that I've been really enjoying. So I'll just talk about a few of them. Battle Game in 5 Seconds has like absolutely started to like catch on fire in a really good way. So essentially what happened was, I don't know if like how much we talked about it in the past, but it was like people fighting in this like little group that like Minion, who's like the main director's name, she kind of like took them and like placed them in a group and then they had to fight, but now she's kind of like released them into the wild, kind of like the Greed Island arc. Okay, I think I might have said this like last week, but there's factions and there's a red, a blue, and a green faction, and the blue stays out of it, so it's like red versus green, and very Pokemon-esque if you ask me. And um like we're seeing the MC and Yuri, they're trying to like, who's like the main girl in this, fight the red faction, and like we're seeing this show really start to take off and go in a direction that I didn't think it was going to go, which is really, really cool. So there's factions now and they're fighting and they don't want to reveal their quirks to everybody. And it, like, some people from their group joined the red faction and some became slaves of the red faction. So that's really interesting. So I'll keep you updated, but Battle Game 5 Seconds is going really, really well. Aquatope on White Sand also going really well. It's just such a wholesome show to watch. And this week they tried to like figure out how to like bring more attention to the aquarium. So they started a snow cone stand and they serve snow cones to people to get more interested. It's a good one. Uh, the Dungeon of Black Company went into a completely different direction than I thought it was going to go. They're no longer in a dungeon. They're now like trying to fight through a whole different area and has changed like a lot. It's like weird talking about all these things without notes in front of me because there's so many things to talk about. I'm like, damn, I don't really remember it until I'm watching it again, you know. Ari Main is still super wholesome. This episode though, so there's 7 people that they need to play, and one of the kids on like the seventh kid is like really super quiet and not very good. And this episode went through like the whole like, like he was like, I suck, I'm quitting, and then like tanked, and then he like quit the team, and like they thought he was gonna like kill himself, and he's gonna commit suicide, and like they found him, and he like wasn't going to, but they thought he was, and then they eventually were like really good teammates and like helped him find what he was good at on the team. And they realized that like he can shoot really well. Like he has a really fast hand. So they're like, wait a second. Cause he's like, I can't throw the ball far. He's like, I can't, fight because it's like water wrestling, right? He's like super thin. Like he's like, I can't fight. So they're like, well, why don't you be a shooter? So they set him up to be a shooter and he was like really successful at it. And they're like, yeah, you're the shooter. And then the episode ended. And I was like, oh man, that's really nice. Like that's some good teammate. That's a good teamwork right there, you know?
Nice feel good moment.
It does. It does. And then I'm still catching up on the case study of Vanitas. So that's like the cool vampire show that I'm watching. And that's kind of like building itself out a little bit. And then obviously girlfriend. Obviously. That's still a dumpster fire trash heap that I'm still enjoying rolling around in. So I'm going to still do that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And that's kind of, there's some more, but that's kind of it.
All right. Damian gets fired up.
I can't go through it all. So, but next week we'll maybe go something different. I don't really know, but
we're learning as we go here.
We are totally. But yeah, that's kind of it. Thanks to everyone for coming to our 38th club meeting, where Nick and I discuss all things anime and manga related. This is your after school podcast with two wannabe weebs, where we detail the season's new shows and sometimes the analysis of old favorites. You can find us at akiculture.club or at akicultureclub on social media.
And that's it. There's only one way to end these.
Peace out.
See ya.